I'm reverse shoveling right now. The big pile at the end of the driveway, I'm shoveling it onto the driveway and it just melts off during the day. That way I can see my back out of the driveway.
I'm not worried about my roof falling in anymore because I had like a major drift on my roof.
Yeah.
So happies and crappies. We do happies now.
Say what?
Trees growing around.
Oh dear. Yeah, that sounds like some spring work you guys are gonna have to do.
How can they grow in their gutters in the winter?
I have no clue, but I heard trees that big all along the rivers.
It sounds like they were there in the fall.
Yeah.
So that is crappy. You got some lawn work to do already.
You could run on Friday. No school.
Yeah, there you go. I like that.
I had your happy, you see your crappy together. Merge them.
Yeah, we can see you can clean up the gutters.
So happy.
What else we got?
And they put me next to the really annoying kid that talks and makes noises with his pencils and fidgets. Sorry, and the like.
Oh yeah? You made it past check-in and everything? Yeah. We still have that.
He doesn't really talk
You
much.
went out there and made it much you could.
I didn't even notice.
Wow, that's nice. Because I remember the one time I took 2 steps away from my car and I was like, I don't feel it. Oh yeah, nice guy.
I can't feel my breath on my
Oh,
face.
go to school and stay in school without someone telling you or whatever. I had a lot of homework.
Oh, that's long. What else we got? Oh yeah? Yes. I guess our happy is we had a
Happy for
birthday
him.
family. How old?
Yeah, young, no?
Well, I think he's not.
I know it's less than mine.
Yeah.
And more than 2.
6 years less. Maybe 3.
He's like,
So, no, somehow they're not doing that.
Yeah.
math's hard.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So the accountant.
What else do we have? Happies or crappies? Things we're looking forward to. Maybe even just more on the outside of the happies and things like that. What are we looking forward to? And I'm not foreshadowing. I'm just saying anything about it.
Oh, yeah, we have spring break.
Okay, so we got a whole month for that.
Okay, well, a month is less than 3 months.
Yeah.
True, because that's summer vacation. We do some short spurts, right?
Then the school year.
End of the school
Yeah,
year.
we have like almost 4 months.
Time is flying so fast anyway. So.
Yeah, school's a big part of the life.
I don't get enough.
It's a sheer great
They make me
grammar
get up
school.
at 6 just to go to school.
Exciting. She's the one that you've seen her though, right? Last year. Barely. But another visit coming up. That's awesome. That's a big deal. That's awesome.
My happies are the facilities. My happies are the tournaments.
Or.
And my second happy is that I'm an officer.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Sorry.
Huh?
No, I think they said Foster, not Foster. That's super cool.
And my
Were you there when we were playing on National Team? Were you there when we were playing on National Team?
That was fun. You should have been losing the cartel. It was the last one.
Western High School.
And they wanted a shootout last night, so we're happy about that.
Yeah, I don't follow Blackhawks.
Blackhawk, yeah, Blackhawk, what's it? Is that East Orland?
West, the east is town, yes.
Okay.
My mom went to.
I don't know.
I'm not in
Chelsea.
18 now. Hartwell Elementary. Yeah.
Oh, our grandpa taught
Abram's just like, he's right in the middle. Nothing too exciting to be happy. Nothing bad happened to me.
He's happy to be here.
I think it's Tom. Guys, when we wrap up over here, I'm sure you guys got through that pretty quick. We got a big group over there.
Yeah, we're earning our dad this month.
Love it. Great job, guys. Give your leaders a hand. They're doing awesome. Alright. What was the happiest of the happies?
Desire has plants growing in his gutter.
You have plants growing in your gutter, and that's the happiest thing from the guys group this week?
Well, that was the crappy.
That was a
That
crap.
was-
The happiest that he's got an extra days off this week,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that he's doesn't know it, but I volunteered to do the work to clean them out.
Nice.
That's great.
Nice. I love
Yeah,
that.
his brother might have a birthday also.
We don't know what year
I'm
though.
not sure how old.
Oh boy. How many of you guys are excited? How many of you have a 4-day weekend? How many of you is just 3 days? 4 days? 3 days. Alright. What's the holiday? Or is it?
I really don't know.
I think it's the parent teachers. I know Lisa's going to 8 o'clock. She's going from 8 in the morning to 8 at night.
Well, guys, we gotta get moving here tonight because we are running out of time. We took a whole bunch of time in our discussion group. So here is what we're going to be talking about in the next 6 weeks. There's a study that we're walking through in our big church on Sunday morning, and all of our small groups are doing the same material, the same content. So the study is a book written by a guy by the name of Tim Keller. Has anyone ever heard of Tim Keller before?
Nope.
Maddie and Ryan, potentially probably because you guys are in groups that are currently doing this study, right?
My mom.
Yes. Tim Keller is a theologian. He's written a lot of books. A lot of my favorite books are actually by Tim Keller. He wrote a book called Center Church that really was one of the things that made me pursue ministry. So he's a really smart guy. And what he did is he sat down with several people from a wide variety of backgrounds and had like a panel discussion with them. But it wasn't a discussion like you might typically think. He asked them for some of their objections to Christianity, to faith. What are some of the things that make it impossible for them to believe? And then they talked about it all together. So one of the things that they talked about, and this is what we're going to spend our time on tonight, the first session, the question was, isn't the Bible a myth? Hasn't science disproved Christianity? Have you guys ever had friends who have said something like that or questioned your faith, or maybe you've even asked questions like that at some point? We're going to talk about why Tim Keller believes that we can resoundingly answer that no, the Bible is not a myth, and that science doesn't disprove Christianity. In fact, they're two completely different things. They're looking at different topics altogether. So as we jump into this, guys, my one ask for you would be that you ask those hard questions. It would be really easy to just disengage and be like, oh, okay, this is a hard question. I'm not going to really wrestle with it. But if you guys will ask these questions about your faith, about the Bible, it will dramatically strengthen your relationship with God. Because it's not just, God never wants us to just blindly accept the things that we see. He has given us reasons and clear historical explanations for everything that we see. It wasn't until 1993, you guys all knew who King David is, right? King David, one of the first kings of Israel, conquered a whole bunch of land, defeated tons of enemies. Well, until 1993, we didn't have any archaeological evidence that this was actually a real person. All that we knew about King David was what we found in the Bible. But then in 1993, archaeologists in Israel started to discover writings, artifacts. And so now, this person that a lot of people pointed to as, well, what about this guy? Now had historical archaeological evidence backing him up. And the more time that archaeologists and scientists have spent looking at these things in the Bible that have transpired, that we got writings from thousands of years ago, all of the signs that we find point towards, yes, this stuff actually happened. My first question that I want us to talk about is that the Bible is a myth. Have you ever heard that? If you think that if that's what they say to you, how would you respond? If someone said to you, I think the Bible is just a myth, that it was made up, that it's not real, what would you say? That's what I want us to talk about in our group. We're going to take 3 minutes. 3 minutes to talk about that, and then we'll come back together. I will, in my brain, it's a temperature of the room timer. 3 minutes. If the person said to you, I think the Bible is a myth, it's just made up, how would you respond?
Starting now?
Starting now. Don't set a timer.
What is the evidence?
Alright, guys, we don't have that ton of time. Here we go. 3 minutes. If someone says to you, yeah, I don't want to go first.
Kind of like what he said, I've heard the point
We'll
that,
do, not everyone might want to use it.
like, even that, Bible was real, that, like,
Okay. And then what would you say?
our whole, like, era is named after Jesus.
This is a great way to respond.
Because
I love your posture
it's,
in that response to
they
it.
do, and they see how it was definite. I'm not, I'm not, with
Chelsea, can I hand up first? What would you say?
Thinking about that, the Bible goes before that.
And then I was like,
It's post-David. So someone's saying, all right, before we were keeping track of the years, all that stuff, and someone just wrote.
That's great. Because one of the things that
What would
they
you say
want
is
on the video is how much things are in this natural just sat there. That's really important. Just lessons from what other people know why exactly what you guys said. Why do we use the spiritual and stuff? It's already in the title.
So there's different things that come from archaeological digs that come back and prove that people in the Bible existed. Okay. He's got one. What else makes you say beyond just saying that one? What
I
else?
mean, it's too big of like an idea or a myth to be like untrue.
You know,
Like the Bible was written over thousands of years, and it still is being sold out like millions of copies.
yeah.
So I think it's like too, and like the whole story of Jesus is just too big of I don't know.
Because like the story stayed the same, it hasn't happened.
Yeah, like if that was myth, like that's just too big to be.
What about for someone who would be Muslim? Or someone who would be from a different religion that says, well, this seems like it's a really big deal. That's too big to be.
We're going to talk about
How could we pick that apart to say, the Bible, no, that stands on its own.
I just think it's been around. It's been trying to be disproven over centuries, and it has not been. Everything has been it failed at disproving anything. So it's so yeah, it's been under attack all these times, but every single time it stands forward, and nobody's been able to say approve. It's kind of impressive.
around and prove things happen.
My Taco Bell's here. No.
He's a big cover.
There have been some crazy out there.
I don't know what these questions are, but there's also one other one.
Take like 60 more seconds. Okay. All right. Now.
I'm just saying what the other person.
I get that question, because like, it could, like, people could just say it's a story.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to go back.
I mean, it's just,
There's
so like,
very severe evidence in the
you can still see that.
That's one of the hardest challenges. Like as much as they're like, no, there's this, and there's this, and there's this, so just like, well, I could write
It was over like a minute
that
ago.
takes that extra piece of faith.
Yeah, well, it was still
Thing that makes it tough to go through there.
I think it counts as like when everyone's.
Grace is catching on.
I already caught on. I'm just telling you. I'm gonna start. I don't know. Oh my gosh, no. I'm gonna explain generate. Yeah, that's another generator. That's a super awesome thing, wink.
All right, guys, bring it back together. What did you guys think? What would you say to someone that said, the Bible is just a myth? What would you say? If anyone wants to be courageous, or maybe Eric or Rick, if you have a quick 15-second kind of consensus of what the group was saying.
One of the hardest things was just, how do we convince someone of something that there's having factual archaeological things that are there, but then going beyond the, okay, well that just fits into a story.
Yeah.
And going with that would encompass a lot of what was talked about here, and figuring out how to combat that from someone who would come back with that as an answer.
Yeah, I like that. That's a great point, because a lot of times when someone has this objection, even if you go and show them, hey, look, this stuff actually happened, they'll say, okay, it's still just a fairy tale, it's still just a story, right? But I want to just look at one story. I want to look at the Gospels, because one, it's the most important story in the whole Bible. But two, it's very easy to see, and I'm going to show you in just a second, that we can look at the Gospels and conclude that they actually happened. What's written there actually happened. Three quick things. The New Testament, the four Gospels, were all written between 30 and 50 years after Jesus died, which is too early for them to become legends. What do I mean by that? Well, even in Paul's letters, but especially in the Gospels, when the writers used a name of someone, for example, when Jesus was carrying his cross up to be crucified, right? Luke mentions that someone stopped to carry his cross for him. His name was Simon, and he was mentioned that his son is this person. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But when the writers would do something like that, they did it for a very specific reason. It was almost like a footnote. It was like they wanted the readers of this message to know, hey, listen, this guy that's still alive was there. His son is this guy. Talk to them about this. They can vouch for this story that it happened the way that it was that I told in my account. Every time that those names are mentioned, those people were still alive when the Gospels were written. So if they were lying about what happened, those people would have fact-checked it. They would have stopped this lie from going around, right? The second thing is that all of the Gospels are way too detailed to be legends, to be myths. What do I mean by that? There's a passage in 2 Samuel when David is a soldier in Saul's army. Okay? And they go and they defeat a whole bunch of Philistines, and the people come back and they sing a song about David. And they say, Saul has slain his hundreds, but David has slain his tens of thousands. Now, what does that mean? That there's no way David actually killed 10,000 people. That is what goes to make up the legend. Do you see how they use those numbers to make that a legend? How David was this amazing warrior, which actually existed. But the people then were singing this song to give David praise. That's not what we see in the Gospels. We see Jesus. I'm going to read it to you because it's very specific. In Mark chapter 4, there's a detailed record which says that Jesus was asleep on a cushion in the stern of a boat. In John 21, it says that Peter was 100 yards out in the water when he saw Jesus on the beach. He then jumped out of the boat, and together they caught, how many fish do you think?
10,000.
It's not 10,000, it's 153. 153. Why would they be so specific about those numbers unless they were there and they saw it happen? In John chapter 8, as John listened to the men who caught the woman in adultery, it says he doodled with his finger in the dust. The best explanation for why an ancient writer would mention the cushion, the 153 fish, and the doodling in the dust when they were irrelevant to the narrative, to the story, is because they were there and you remembered it happening. Grace, I'd love to get to you. I don't have time tonight. I'll make sure to catch you when we go back for Swan, okay? It's the sump pump. It just is a device that probably means we're all going to have wet shoes here. I don't know. And then the last one is that the Bible is counterproductive to the early church's depiction of their heroes. When we look at the Gospels, if you were going to say, yeah, the Bible is just a myth made up by the church to try and support the church and make this myth happen, right? All through the Gospels, the early church founders, who were those people? The 11 people that started the early church, who were they?
Disciples?
The disciples. All through the Gospels, the disciples are portrayed as losers, as not getting it, having it all backwards, as honestly, at the end, they were cowards, and they all abandoned Jesus. If the Bible was just a myth trying to promote this concept of Christianity, why would it tear down its earliest church leaders unless that's actually what happened? That they did all those things. They made those mistakes. So when we look at the Gospels, we can look at those three things, and as we look at the disciples' lives, we see this radical change in their lives. We see them go from what I just talked about them being portrayed as to going and dying for the faith, for preaching the gospel all throughout the Middle East and Asia and Europe. That huge change in their lives, in the world, can only happen if those things actually took place. We're going to move on. We're going to talk about evolution here. All right? Now, if someone says, I can't believe the Bible because I believe in evolution, what would you say to that person? If you bumped into someone and they said, yeah, in the Bible it says the world was made in 7 days and I believe in evolution, how would you respond? There's no right or wrong answer, but that's what we're going to talk about in our group, okay? So come back, we're going to take 3 minutes, and we're going to bump right back out. Alright, we got to think. Yeah. How did you do that?
It also said that we had 6 days that
actually use for nowadays for Monday to Sunday now. Even if it was gone through like evolution, how to know the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and all that.
Everyone's looking
Because the days are different now.
in that. You're either
Write them both down.
believing that
You have any idea that they want to go get so further in at those days, so. Okay.
Well, I mean, humans are like intelligent and like there's like animals that don't have the same like knowledge and intelligence as humans, and evolution happened, then that would be the same. Because
Yeah.
gorillas are
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to them. Talk back to them. Answer that question. Animals can talk. They don't speak to them.
pretty much everybody can vote the same.
Alright, what else?
Like DNA and stuff, like how they just build the same in turn. There's gonna be slight differences, but that was possible. Nowadays, how these now most animals can talk.
How many animals talk?
Zero.
I thought you said most animals talk.
They bark and stuff. I mean, that's always a question I've always had with people that talk about evolution. I said, okay, where did speech come out?
Yeah, I mean, animals certainly have their ways of communicating with each other. Birds sing, wolves howl, and to be able to define that, but we have thousands of languages, different pieces that certainly sets humans apart.
Yeah, reason. We have logic and reason. Animals don't.
They just look at
That's what they have. Squirrel still right across the street. Because animals talk. They have the deer telling the deer on the highway, saying, "Don't go across there. Wait."
Learn not to go on roads.
Yeah.
Walk in the crosswalk.
Deer only cross where it says deer crossing. Deer crossing, it's 5 miles.
last on
Yeah, you know why a chicken crosses the road?
There's a lot of deer, so.
To prove to the squirrel can be done. Or toss them on the.
Yeah, you know, we'll get to the
last call.
But yes,
Right, that doesn't make sense because if they answer why chicken cross the road, that's their instinct. Get to the other side.
There's food over there.
There's no fox on this side.
my boyfriend was on the other side. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question to answer.
All right, guys. This is a hard question, isn't it?
We came up with some pretty good answers.
What do we got? If we are touting our pretty good answers, I need to know what they are.
Speech.
Speech?
Yes.
Well, elaborate, because he's telling him to speak.
Yeah, well, humans have intelligence, and there's we have speech and language, and animals just have instincts, and humans gotta give humans so much more gifts than just instincts like animals. So if humans just had instincts where animals had knowledge, then that could be proven. But humans have knowledge and intelligence that animals don't.
And choice, right? An animal will always act on instinct.
Yeah.
But we choose how we want to live both lives. That's a great answer. I like that. Great Thomas. Was that a collaborative answer or was that all Thomas?
Collaborative.
We're taking collaborative. I like it. Guys, I have two big concepts for you guys. All right? I need you to stay with me. All right? The first is that science and religion are not opposed to each other. They're not, one's not trying to disprove the other. They are, in fact, looking at two completely different segments of society, of study. When Pastor Kevin preached on Sunday, he mentioned that an overwhelming majority of scientists around the world and in America believe that the two are independent of each other and have no conflict whatsoever. Overwhelming majority. Now, the other thing, a lot of times the word evolution is a trigger word for Christians. And there's two types of evolution. There's microevolution. Who knows what microevolution is? You got hands. I love that. Maddie.
A form of evolution.
Emma. Yeah. Yeah, that's correct. So a tiny evolution is when something happens to a species and then that results in a small change to either the way that they are, the way that they live their lives, right? Maybe they end up living in a different area. Maybe they have to eat different food that causes them to grow slightly differently, smaller or larger. That's what microevolution is. And we have seen that and watched that happen. We have proven that. That's a real thing that does exist. So when someone says, I believe in evolution, well, we don't have to respond and say, no, I don't believe in evolution, because evolution we have looked at and seen that it's a thing. It's a real thing. Now, what a lot of people are thinking when someone says that word evolution is macroevolution. And that's the theory that we kick around over here a lot. I'm sure you guys talk about it too, that human beings evolved from nothing, right? That we could see this long pathway from a single cell all the way to where we are today. And we just can't prove that. It's a theory. Now, the other important thing that I need you guys to know is that theory and our account of how the world was created are not in conflict with each other. Because scientists theorize that we began millions, billions of years ago, and we, in the Bible, have this account that God created the world in 7 days. Those two things do not conflict. And I'm going to tell you why. It's something that many believers just aren't aware of. There's a word in there, in that Genesis account, that means day. It's one of the words that we get translated as day. But in the way that the writer of Genesis was using it, and the actual translation of the word, translates to an undetermined period of time. An undetermined period of time. So we don't know if the writer, who is using lots of exalted prose narrative, is what Tim Keller calls it, means that the author was making truth claims about the world in which we live, but he wrote it in such a way that it was not meant to be taken literally. It was meant to show us a concept, that God was in control of the world, and that in 7 days, whatever that looked like, God made light out of darkness. He formed the world and the seas. He created the plants and the animals. God, this account and the evolutionary theory are not in conflict with each other. It's a big concept that I wish I had more time to go over tonight, but if you guys have questions about that, I'd love to sit and talk with you. It's a huge conversation, so we won't do it here tonight. But the last thing that I want you guys to do, and this is the most important thing, is you have 3 minutes to tell the entire story of the Bible. The entire story of the Bible. I need you guys to put together the essential parts. What, if you had to convey to someone what the entire story of the Bible was about in 3 minutes, that's your challenge. You guys are up for it? I'm starting a 3-minute timer. Audrey, you are in control.
And then it came
People say and they decide Israel was and they went through highs and lows, but eventually the prophecies a little while later Jesus was born and lived a perfect life and died a criminal's death that he didn't deserve. And then he rose from the dead and proved to be a savior and then the Christian church was formed and it still is today and as it's been Can you memorize each chapter of the Bible or each book of the Bible in 2 seconds? Both of them, and then they'll like just tweak.
Sure.
Yeah, you could just recite books of the Bible.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, nobody knows just the John, you know, and maybe able to get that, but guess about Psalms, that would take a while.
And James is easy, that's 5 chapters. I'll take the easy one.
I'll take the one Peter that I didn't put out there. Yeah, I thought it was much shorter.
Anyone else have anything?
Yeah, that's a lot to ask people.
Just summarize each book of the Bible in 2 seconds. Genesis, I can't say there's a lot that happens.
You took that one out, right?
I put it. It's in here
The
already.
666 is in there?
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
All the people and all the animals. It's kind of a big deal.
All right. I need a representative from each group that wants to, or that is nominated by a leader. So Audrey, I need you to choose who you want to be on the group. And then
Who wants to go?
who we got over here?
Who's the leader? Usually Stephanie.
Thomas is the winner.
All right. We're gonna listen to Thomas. Thomas, can you go? And then Thomas.
The whole Bible?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Alright. So, starting the beginning, world was created, everything we see was created, and God formed man. The next part is the 3 generations Israel was formed, and the nation of Israel was formed, and they went through many trials and highs and lows. But a little through prophecies came, and it prophesied Jesus would come, and then Jesus did come, and after that, he was a carpenter, but then he became a prophet, and he did, well, he spoke to many people and led disciples to follow him, and then he ended up dying and rising again after he predicted his death and proved to be a savior. And then the disciples decided to start the Christian church, and the Christian church got formed, and I mean, I guess it's still here, and we're still here in the Christian church, and then it talked about the end times.
That's great. Put on the spot. Nice job, Thomas. Good Thomas around. That's great. All right, Audrey, have we come to a conclusion? Who's going over here? Maddie.
So first, you got technically two stories here, but Adam and Eve after the world, first sin, trials, and
I'm just running out.
And he came eventually, and welcome back eventually, and also the Bible is pretty much just God's love saying His love for everyone.
I like the way that you phrased that there. Yeah, that's a very, yeah, well, nice job, Maddie. Great job. Guys, the important thing to remember whenever you're having these types of conversations with someone is what it's all about. And that 3-minute story is just a way to remember that, to bring the big picture back to the forefront. Because we can get super caught up on these nitty-gritty debates and dialogues, right, about really dense stuff. But at the end of the day, what matters is how much God loves us and what Jesus did for us on the cross. That's what it's all about. We don't want to get distracted by this stuff over here. We definitely want to be aware of it so we can be ready for it when these conversations happen. But it's all about Jesus. It's all about what He did for us. I'm going to go ahead and draw a raffle ticket to get those out. We are wrapping up our conversation tonight, and we're going to try and play a game really quick. Eric, how do you feel about hosting Family Feud? You can do that? All right. I have all done tech in the back. All right, grab your raffle tickets. This is for all 5 pounds of the Twizzlers.
Whoa!
All 5 pounds. Are you ready? I have selected the winning ticket. Oh, I did several times.
Oh, he's been doing that for a while, shaking it up.
6.
Ooh.
1.
I think we all have that.
2.
I bet there's 1, 6.
1. 4. I'm just kidding. It's 6. It's 6. I got all of you on that, didn't I? All right, here's where we'll start seeing some people drop off. 8.
Yes.
And the last number is 0.
No.
You got it?
Nice.
Good job.
Did you really?
Yep.
I thought you were faking. You like stood up and then sat back down really quick. Great job, Jeremiah. Way to go.
680.
The Twizzlers are all yours. No, missed it by 1. The Boots have won every game for the last 6 months, and they missed it by 1 number. Guys, we have a lightning round of Family Feud. We need a nominee. Can you guys make some noise for Mr. Eric? Please make some noise.
Alright.
Alright, we don't have a whole lot of time. got a girl up here. We need a guy up here to start us off. Who's coming up?
Jeremiah was last week.
Jeremiah, you don't have to hide him yet. That's when you get home. Well, who's coming up here to start being with you?
All right. Yeah, you're walking this way. Yeah, okay.
Alright, who's ready to play? You know the game? Everybody pay attention, listen here to let's see what we got.
Nah, we're gonna be lucky this time.
How
When I was younger, I used to watch a lot of
everyday
things.
hero.
Even nowadays, I still watch them.
Teaching the gospel.
Now is a small group leader and everyday.
Whoa!
Wow.
That seemed like a good one.
Alright guys, wait, this is from normal citizens.
Wait, it's cold outside.
He says parents. Yep.
I'm not sure we understand.
Alright, we got the sound out there. Alright, we need 2 new people.
Want me to go?
Is that how we do it?
Yeah, Josiah. Get us the
Alright.
dog.
So what we got? Pastor. How is a small group leader an everyday hero? Or who is? Pastor. They teach us.
I just gained some weight during class.
Oh, they show how to live. They're a role model. Do we want to play or do we want to pass?
No,
They
play.
are going to pass.
What?
All right.
Only one
We
thing.
got a lot of-
We can either get this wrong or we can get this right.
This is how far
Guys,
this
let's
is.
what are we gonna do?
Now we gotta think of something.
I look. See this.
Just like
that's-
take them all out and shove them in random
I
pockets.
can't hear it. What do we got?
You know how many pockets I have in this?
If someone has an addiction,
I think I used to have one on my arm.
to help get you
Shove them in
that.
their sleeves or something.
All right.
Right here. Two red pockets.
All right, who's next?
Two pockets like this. With a mask in it. I have a mask in my pocket. I do not know why.
Who's up?
Yes, I think I used to have a jacket like with a pocket
Chelsea,
right
what do you got?
here,
You're standing up like
here,
you're
here, and also pants pockets. They said a bunch of pockets on my hoodie. I think I wear a hoodie today, but I forgot to. And shouldn't we be talking about what's gonna be happening?
Okay, they are good listeners.
No,
They're
sounds
counselors.
specific.
You can vent to them. It's the rainbow, the right there. Always being there.
Just like
All right, here, what do you got? You don't know. You might need to build on that. Hey, girls, come on over. Where's your team? All right, good. The answer we got was they show kindness. All right. What do we got? Toy Jordan, I'm sorry. How is a small group leader an everyday hero?
we're gonna go to steel right here.
Jerry, why are you gonna go up this way?
We can move the hands the fastest.
They can help you.
Oh man.
All right. All right. Danny, what do you think? How is a small group leader an everyday hero? Teaching the word. All right, boys. You have some time.
They did that on purpose.
They're pathetic? They are empathetic. Little ladies make that water just like that. What do we got? What did we miss? They're fun and humorous. They will take a message from you and listen. Those are tricks. What? Pray. All right.
yourself off. I think that you are a prime pastoral humanist. I really do. I honestly think that Kevin is kind of like grooming is the wrong word, but like I think he wants you here. So we'll just see what it is. So what answers do you not feel good about? Yeah. Sorry. What did you think? Nice. So I should prep ahead of my meeting with him. Okay, cool. Okay. All right.